Alright guys, let's go. Okay, lights, perfect. Camera, alright. I love Neon Genesis Evangelion.
God damn it. Ugh.
Neon Genesis Evangelion is a piece of media that speaks for itself, has some of the deepest characters, the best world building, and is generally just a really well articulated work. That's not to say there aren't a bunch of really weird and awkward moments though. Because of this, a lot of people tend to really not like it, so outside of a bunch of very out of place collabs, Evangelion, along with its fans, have stayed out of the mainstream. Don't get me wrong, Evangelion is still a wildly popular anime, even if it does have a pretty, specific audience. But what if we want to get even weirder? You see, here on the show, I try extra hard not to fit in, even in spaces filled with people that already don't fit in our society. But how do I do that with an anime? Get the fuck away from me before I annihilate you. I think that in order to find something really niche here, we need to take a look at Evangelion's creator, Hideaki Anno. He has a history of some really interesting work, even outside of Evangelion. He's worked on Godzilla, Ultraman, and even voiced the cat in FLCO, so I mean, he's a versatile guy. The thing that I find the most interesting about him is that all the anime he's directed doesn't have any source material, meaning he's not going off of any mangas or novels for inspiration, so everything we see from him is really just coming right off the dome. He has an inclination for writing and directing for TV, which, as a screenwriter myself, I can appreciate that.
And there we go.
At the start of his career, he would work on projects for Hayao Miyazaki, do some convention work, and was also the animation director for Gainax's Royal Space Force. This movie was funded by Bandai, forming a strong relationship between the two companies. And after the commercial that was Royal Space Force, Bandai offered to fund a new series under the condition that it would need to sell 10,000 copies. From this offer, a new idea would be created and written by Toshio Okada, but this project wouldn't see the light of day for a number of years. It would fall into limbo as there wasn't any director for the project. That is, until Hideaki Anno saw the script and felt it was his duty to be a part of that project. He needed to direct. So what is his directorial origin? What is the source of all these unfiltered ideas and creative ability? You got whatever the fuck this is. You got a 6-episode OVA and prototype for Evangelion named Gunbuster. Now, I won't be doing a full summary of the entire show, but I will be throwing in a bunch of small details throughout the rest of this video, so beware of spoilers. If based on the last 2 minutes of this video, you're somewhat interested in what Gunbuster potentially has to offer, give it a try. It's only 6 25-minute episodes, so like it or not, you definitely won't regret watching it. Gunbuster is the story of a girl named Noriko, a mech pilot in training, and the daughter of a space captain who died in a tragedy caused by a group of the space monsters humans are currently at war with. On this journey, Noriko is aided by Kazumi, a gifted teen pilot and coach, a broody and maybe manipulative figure who was supposedly on the same ship Noriko's father was on when he died. The story follows these three characters' experiences traveling through space and, with that time, on the Luxion, a spaceship inhabited by the best teen mech pilots of their time. We watch as Noriko develops as a pilot and deals with certain feelings of loneliness and hopelessness and isolation, while the story is also dealing with topics like love and death. All the while, they're fighting off these existential alien forces that see our main characters as just a tiny obstacle to them. There are also a bunch of pretty big time skips as a result of some, I don't know, space stuff, along with a random 15-year time skip just thrown in right at the start of the last episode to show the coach died for reasons I am still trying to understand. But one black and white episode, few slideshows, and an indomitable human spirit later, we get to see our main characters finally end this war, and they get to return to Earth 12,000 years after leaving it. By the way, if you're wondering why this last episode was in black and white and there was this like slideshow thing, it's because Gainax, the studio that animated this show, they were also the same studio that animated Evangelion, ran out of money, so everything just had to be in black and white, and then they couldn't animate this whole like space fighting scene, so they had to do it with paper. So yeah, if you were wondering what I meant by saying this show was the blueprint for Evangelion, this is what I meant. Absolutely nothing else. To me, the most striking thing about Gunbuster's story is these monsters. They're described as kind of bacteria-like, using stars as hosts and just throwing themselves at their enemies until the rest of their colony can move on to the next. This means that the humans going to war with these monsters are really just an obstacle to them. So all this trauma, death, and sadness they're causing really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. This is then subverted by the main question of the series, which is, what do we fight for? And if we live in such a vast universe where our actions will ultimately have no effect on the course of ours or anyone else's futures, why do we even try to do anything in the first place? All of that's boosted by the world building. The first half of the show is a whole lot slower than the second, taking its time to explore the intricacies of these machines, the space travel, the characters, all for us to learn that it just might not matter. By the way, these were the concepts that drew Anno into directing Gunbuster in the first place, which is another reason why these world-building elements are so prevalent to the anime. It's a really interesting take on nihilism, and I really wish the show took more time to work with that idea. This news about the monsters being like bacteria is something we don't even hear about until episode 4 out of 6. Even then, it seems to have pretty much no effect on any of the characters. This isn't even the only time something like this happens. I mean, the biggest loose end in the show, in my opinion, comes in the form of Noriko's dead dad. It's said that he's dead in episode 1. They allude to some like foreshadowing of him maybe being not dead. But then in the next episode, they just find the ship he died on and confirm he's dead, and then they just never return to that idea. Basically the same idea with Smith, this guy Noriko meets at the start of episode 3. They meet, do some really weird flirting, and then Noriko realizes she has a crush on him, only for him to die in space like 5 minutes later. After that, Smith's name is dropped at most like 3 or 4 times throughout the rest of the story. It feels like the only reason these plot points were written in were so Coach could connect with Noriko and then get her in the Gunbuster. And Coach, his whole thing is that he was on the same ship Noriko's father was on when this whole tragedy happened and they were attacked by the space monsters. So he wants revenge. What I like about him is you can tell this is what he wants pretty much from the get-go, and we watch him get more and more desperate for this revenge as the story progresses. But where this gets confusing is that Cosme thinks this is turning him into a more manipulative person. I think a closer look at this tension in Cosme and Coach's relationship would have been pretty neat. Cosme very clearly wants to protect Noriko, but Coach wants to bring out her fullest potential so she can operate the Gunbuster and save humanity. But this is all thrown out the window an episode later, where, get this, it's revealed they're apparently dating.
I feel like he was meant to be this anime's version of Gendo from Evangelion, but they got way too distracted giving him a sick-ass spike in, like, cancer or something.
The one common thread with all these issues is that these are all ideas that are brought up in one episode and just kind of get dropped as soon as the next one starts. It's like the writers just went into writing the show with a bunch of great ideas, but no real plan. Which, by the way, you're gonna need a really good plan if you're trying to cram all of this into 6 episodes. Still, it is important to keep in mind that we can't be fully sure who wrote what or if Anno made any significant alterations to the original scripts following them being given to him by Okada. That's pretty much the main issue with Gunbuster. Great ideas, interesting story, but the smaller ideas were executed pretty messily. Even so, there's obviously lots here that I probably missed on my first watch, so I'm hoping I'll pick it all up eventually. Also, I'm planning on watching the sequel series Diebuster eventually, so hopefully that can contextualize and maybe solve the problems I have with Gunbuster.
And like, I know I should probably give this one a fair chance and all, but come on, this does not look that good. I mean, is that a fucking maid outfit?
Gunbuster is a show that stood for a lot more than itself. Not only did it present its conflicts and story in a unique way, but was also the very first experiment conducted by one of the most legendary figures in anime today. You can really clearly see how so many different characters, moments, or shots were rehashed for Evangelion or inspired moments in Gurren Lagann. The series still has some pretty obvious issues, not to mention a budget that seriously just fell apart at the end of the show, but hey, if this is the price we needed to pay in order to get something as great as this, it was well worth it. The fact Hideaki Anno was able to get that close to something so amazing on his first try is impressive enough on its own. That being said, I believe Gunbuster is an anime that deserves to stand on its own as one of the pioneers of its genre, while also being a great spiritual predecessor to so many amazing works.
And cut. You know, seeing all these animes run out of funding at the end really does put into perspective how hard it is to produce something under a tight budget. Makes me think about how we haven't run out of cash yet.
Zap?
Yeah, what? But no way. Where'd all our money go?
Let's see. Robo Dolphin, $80. Projector, $200. Camera, 100 sheets of paper with tally marks, $500.
Ugh, somebody's gotta do something about that.